Planned Parenthood likes to use the term reproductive rights, which I don't know if anybody really knows what that means, and they like it that way because when they can make it mean whatever they want to make it mean. But basically here we're defining it that sex is okay between consenting individuals. And so the violence in our world today, the violence against women and children is a matter of reaping what we sow. And in that regard, we've turned away from God, and the fruits the pigeons are coming home to roost in our violent world. Here's how God works. In Romans, the first chapter, the 24th verse, it talks about this. It says, therefore God gave, remember in 1962, we began to publicly turn away as a people from Christian principles and from God publicly. Therefore, God gave them up in the lusts of their hearts to impurity, to dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature, that is sex in this case, rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Verse 26, for this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions. Their women exchanged the natural relations for unnatural, and the men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another. So basically, in turning away from God will give us up. And we'll reap the consequences. Today, we're going to ask the question, now, how can we begin to right this wrong? How can we right this wrong? Listening is not enough. It's going to require sexual purity, require abstinence. This is an attainable goal, and we're going to talk about the steps for doing so. And my guest is going to help us to do that. I'd like to introduce our guest today. He's a longtime friend of mine, personal friend of mine. Attended Waynesburg College and entered the profession as a medical technologist. He's married, the father of 6 children and 1 stepson. I consider Dennis a mentor in life. For the art of teaching children, of making children and adults feel worthy and important, a good role model. Welcome to our show, Dennis. Our guest is Dennis Sapos.
Thank you so very much, Bill. I don't have a quarter right now. But yes, I do have some experience in these areas, and you go back to the Bible. All of us need to understand that the great God created sex. The great God created everything that he wants us to hold sacred. And when he defines what sacredness is and how, as you called it, the special sacredness of life, and how we need to cherish that, and how we need to work hard at keeping it his way, we will find the blessings. Then we will find the absence of his wrath, the absence of the taking away of those blessings and the horrors that can come around if he is not there.
Yes. Well, we talked before that God is love, and God's purpose in chastening, of letting us experience, of giving man up to experience the consequences of own action, is itself an act of love on God's part that hopefully we will learn from our experiences and repent and turn back to God. Now, the sexual emotions, identities, go to the deepest levels, the heart of being a human being. Whether you're a man or a woman, our emotions of sexual identity and sexuality are among the deepest emotions we have. What kind of emotional injury can occur, or does occur, from premature sexual activity?
Well, this great God created us with a conscience. It's something that each one of us has deep inside, part of our soul, part of our very inner choices and standards that we set up for ourselves. he made emotions. He also created sex, and he created it to be something very special, something to hold people together his way, and something that people need, and yet something that, according to his ways, have to be done in the right context. Marriage, for instance, is something he invented. Man did not invent marriage, although a topsy-turvy world like ours tries to change everything. But when the context and the picture is not painted properly, and pictures are painted by attitudes, we choose our own colors. Every morning we get up. Attitude is very important. And when we take into consideration the spin-off from poor choices, like the emotional upsets from premarital sex, these things are not going to bring happiness. These things will bring on the stirring of the conscience, and guilt can be a terrible horror in one's life to just drag them down. The breakup of intimate relationships can also not only affect the person themselves, the youngster, but their own families, their friends, schoolmates, and also the emotional impact of infertility can cause lifetime problems and more emotional pressure.
We were talking, you and I have discussed how as I said, the emotions of sexual identity and sexual feelings go to the very heart of our beings as human beings, so that when injury, for example, when premature breakups of relationships occur, when people, because the sexual drive is not, although it provides a lot of excitement for a while, it's not strong enough to sustain a relationship. And so young people will find themselves kind of engulfed in sexual excitement, and really prompted and goaded by the society, the culture, to awaken those feelings and to experience that and find out about it. But these feelings are not strong enough to in and of themselves to hold a relationship together. And you do get, when they wear off, when the romantic excitement of sex wears off, there's no friendship and no bond between the male and female there, a breakup occurs, and this in turn engenders a whole new set of heartache, hardening of the heart, and other kind of problems. Well, what is abstinence? Now, we're going to ask about how can we right this wrong, and the answer is in abstinence. How would you describe what is abstinence?
Abstinence is not having no sex, but abstinence is waiting to have the right sex at the right time with the right person. And without having these restraints and this character growth, one will never see a true happy life. So abstinence is a key to a good, happy marriage. Marriage is something, I think the pendulum is swinging to where a lot of youngsters do want to marry. They want to have happy lives. They were tricked through the 60s and several years back into believing that the roles can be switched, male and female, that there is no real role in being a strong father or a good homemaker. And all that, as Bill said, it's a myth, because youngsters today need to fulfill that void that's within them, and it's a godly thing God put there. So while they're young and having the strongest sexual drives, they need to learn to control them. That's what God expects of us, the control, the character growth, and the waiting. Nobody likes to wait for anything. We live in a society, the fast, quick food society. I think it only makes us more impatient. But the waiting game can be a lot of fun. Abstinence is not the extraction of fun in our lives. It's simply learning what the myths are, getting rid of them,
Waiting till the right time. We're going to talk about, we want to talk about when is the right time
Exactly.
for having sex.
Exactly. And in that growth period, there's all kinds of things youngsters can do. They can spend time with groups, having group activities, which is a very good thing.
Well, we're going to
School
talk
building their education, all kind of things like that.
goals
Staying
in life.
away,
Goals in life, yes.
fleeing the temptations that just come at us from all angles, from commercials, from movies. And
Well,
all
you
kinds
use
of
the word temptations there, and that you're getting right to putting your finger right on the trigger mechanism for all this. Can you describe? A temptation, I think, could be described as, and then we're using sexuality as an example. For example, nudity. God has wired us in such a way that nudity pretty much triggers in the human mind, especially in the male mind, a desire, an excitement, an allure. That we call temptation, that desire, that's triggered by, for example, a picture or a thought of nudity, then begins to pose a temptation. And can you describe this process by which how temptation wells up in us and until it turns into an act of sexual sin and even crime?
Well, this may start out with just normal living, just normal school attendance, where young girls are not dressing modestly. But like I said before, I really believe that the pendulum is starting to turn the other way, and youngsters are not going to be stupid. They're going to see the fallacy in all this immodesty. So I think the youngsters are going to start dressing more modest. But when some don't, it does definitely cause problems, because the male is created as a visual individual. And when parents start teaching their children about staying away from light porn or making sure...
Okay, I see we're getting the cue here. I'm going to have to interrupt you a minute, and we're going to cue right now for two important messages, and we'll be right back.
You make your way through life, deciding who you are, how you feel, and what you believe. Sure, it's hard, but you do what you know is right. Maybe your voice isn't the loudest, but it's the voice you dare to listen to.
If you're facing an unexpected pregnancy, call 1-800-550-4900. They said you wouldn't be bothered by a voice calling for you in the night. There would be no trail of cereal through the house, no spills or stray toys. The clock ticks, all is calm, and you realize there is still a voice. If you face the pain of an abortion, call 1-800-593-2273.